Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Vinland Politics, a place where we provide unbiased news and unfiltered commentary. Today we have a lot of things to cover, ranging from executive orders being signed to confirmation hearings, as well as overlooking the recent discussions going on in the White House press conferences. I hope you all enjoy this episode, and let's begin. Jumping right in this morning, I have 5 big things I want to discuss today. The first thing would be the Trump administration's policy agenda, right? So during this week, we have seen a lot of press meetings coming out of the White House. Specifically, something to note on is the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. She has outlined an aggressive start to the new administration, harboring on questions without a binder, which a lot of people keep harping on. She has confirmed that President Trump has signed over 300 executive orders in this last week alone, targeting immigration, economic regulations, and government restructuring. The administration has also recently frozen federal funding programs. Now, to dive into that further, the federal funding programs will not affect civilian funding, right? So individuals receiving SNAP benefits, EBT benefits, or things along those lines will not be impacted. For a full digest on what to look into that, please go into the description where I will have these sources linked so that way you may read them yourselves. Something we really pride ourselves on here at Vinland Politics is transparency. I'm not trying to sell you a side, I'm trying to sell you the news. The second thing I want to talk about is the immigration policy taking a hardline shift. Something kind of ironic in this space is the idea that criminals are being targeted, right? We keep hearing that from the border czar, but what exactly is a criminal, right? So we did get some clarity in the White House press conferences on what that means. Essentially, anybody that crosses our borders illegally is a criminal by definition. And that does put some mixed signals in the air for the administration whenever we have people saying that only criminals are being targeted, but then yet anybody that crosses illegally is a criminal. So I think it's a bit in the air on where things are actually getting targeted there. I think we still have a lot more to unfold in that story. President Trump has declared a national emergency at the southern border, started deploying Marines there, lots of military troops, reinforcing the wall border. He's ending catch and release policies, and as I said prior, expanding upon the wall's construction down there at the southern border. Another thing to note was that sanctions were placed on Colombia after, I'm sure you all heard, they initially refused to take deportee flights, right? They rejected 3 flights. A lot of trouble came from that. President Trump immediately threatened tariffs and very harsh action towards Colombia. Colombia backed down to Trump's threats about an hour later, and now things seem to be progressing smoothly. More to come on that story later on as things develop. The third thing I would like to mention as we keep moving forward is the military reforms. A lot of people are looking around at these military reforms wondering what's next, right? There is this idea of reinstating service members that were let go during the pandemic, which to some may be exciting, but I believe the number was around only 48 troops that had actually tried to get their service back after being let go, which was around 4,000 service members that were let go originally during the pandemic. This reinstating of service members would include back pay for as long as they've been out, and it would include receiving your previous rank as well. Logistics on how that is going to work will be left up to our Secretary of Defense, Hegseth, and we will see what he does with that. Another order titled Restoring America's Fighting Force will eliminate the diversity, equity, and inclusion offices within the military. The goal behind this is to emphasize a merit-based system, but we'll see how that works later on in things. It's hard to identify exactly what is a DEI hire and what is not. The Trump administration seems pretty confident that they can identify it, so we will see how that goes moving forward. The fourth point I would like to mention is the national security and missile defense expansion. I'm sure many of you may have been hearing around in the news recently, the Iron Dome for America. This is not to be confused with a literal Iron Dome. If you are confused about that, it's essentially we want what Israel has, right? Israel has one of the best missile defense systems with their Iron Dome, as can be seen through the conflict spreading with Hamas recently, and Iran. Any missile strikes that have come in, I don't believe any have actually landed within Israel. All have been shot down. The idea is that this administration will sign the Iron Dome for America executive order, and it will significantly expand spending and missile defense capabilities for counter-threat weapons. This would mark one of the most aggressive missile defense expansions in decades for America, and there are apparently plans to develop space-based interception technology as well. It's hard to say how that will look moving forward, but we'll save that for the commentary section. The last thing I want to mention as things going on in this week is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s contentious confirmation hearings. There's been a lot of heat going on in that realm. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is Trump's nominee for the Health and Human Services Secretary. He's currently undergoing Senate confirmation hearings, so I implore you to please go watch them as they're going on. Kennedy has been known to be a vaccine skeptic, and he has shifted his focus towards food policies and chronic disease treatments, but his previous stances are still in the air and they are still under scrutinization by the committees, right? A lot of discussion has been going on towards previous comments he made during the pandemic era and his feelings towards vaccinations. These are obviously places of contention, so they must be brought up before somebody can be fully confirmed. That pretty much wraps up the main points of news I have for today. Without further beating around the bush, let's get into the commentary. All right. Now that the factual stories have been laid out of what's going on in America currently, what does it mean for America going forward? Right? So we can really see a return to Trump's core policies, right? On the campaign trail, he mentioned he wanted to have the largest deportation in American history. It seems he's on track to do that. The immigration crackdown and border security measures show that Trump's second term is doubling down on these priorities. Will this approach lead to lower illegal immigration rates? It's hard to say. I do believe personally that this is a bit of fear-mongering for future people who would dare to cross the border illegally. And I think currently it's working, but never say never. People are enduring and people will find a way. Not every pace can be held up forever, nor can the Trump administration be in office forever, right? We do have to remember that this is a 4-year term. Things could change rapidly with a new administration as well, but we are focused on the here and now, and I do believe that we will see a drop a bit in illegal immigration rates as these really harsh policies keep moving forward. There also begs the question of whether or not this will create new diplomatic tensions. I believe we can see that it already is creating new diplomatic tensions. We are having some diplomatic tensions with Mexico and Colombia, as mentioned previously. The Colombia situation seems to have been ironed out rather quickly, but our neighbor to the south, Mexico, well, that's a story to yet be determined, right? Another thing is the military readjustment going on, right? Is it just pragmatism or is it politics? Reinstating the discharged service members, right, is a major reversal of pandemic-era politics. Will it strengthen military readiness? Is it good for the military moving forward? Is this cutting costs, like Trump campaigned on? I don't believe it's cutting costs personally. Like I said, these are all personal opinions for the commentary section. I don't think we're cutting costs by bringing back and reinstating these service members. Military readiness, I think if you want to reinstate yourself and this is giving you the opportunity to do so, I don't see how a person who has the desire to serve would reduce military readiness. But again, that's just my opinion. I think, you know, it's a double-edged sword. There could be some good benefits to come from it. My main concern is the cost of this, right? The back pay that they're introducing. That could add up quickly depending on how many people reinstate themselves. Another thing to mention whenever it comes to the military is this DEI problem we are facing. The Trump administration is calling for the removal of all military DEI positions, which has fears for transgender service members as well as LGBTQ service members on how they will move forward in their position. You know, this morning I saw a video of a transgender pilot who has been serving for, I forget the exact amount of years, but a long time, right? This is a test pilot for our military. This is somebody who has done plenty of tours to Iraq and Afghanistan, somebody who has done more than most, somebody who has done more than us watching, right? But their position is currently at stake with these new policies on DEI in the military. Whether or not that's a fair thing to say, it's difficult to say, right? Because it's easy from an office to say, let's get rid of DEI positions. It's hard face to face to look at another human willing to do more work than you are and say you don't deserve a position, right? That's my personal take on the issue. I think really when it comes down to DEI in the military, we need to have a mind your own business policy, right? It's one thing to federally say that we should not recognize somebody's preferences. It's another thing to say that you're not qualified for a job because of your preferences, right? And so that's where I kind of find myself on that. I don't think people should be losing their positions for who they are, right? Especially when joining the military service alone takes a lot of heart and it takes a lot of dedication. I have family in the service, and just not sure if it's the right move going forward, but that's yet to be determined, right? The Kennedy confirmation is kind of coming across as a test for the GOP. It is interesting to see Kennedy taking such a hard right turn, right? Joining up on Trump's administration after being a Democrat and then turning into an independent. I think it is good for Kennedy in terms of his political career, right? He's building himself up. He's getting into the secretary. The main problem here is the slander. I do fear Kennedy is being slandered a bit by the committees overhearing his confirmation. He's tried to pivot away from his whole vaccine skepticism, but statements are statements, right? And so things that he has said previously remain in the air and they remain under scrutinization regardless of how he wants to pivot himself. We've seen this for any political member, right? Statements you make will stick around and they will always be there to haunt you, right? The main thing I see here is that this is going to be a test of loyalty, right? How loyal are our Republican members going to be to Trump? This is Trump's appointee, right? And loyalty says, confirm my appointee. That's yet to be determined on where the loyalty will lie there. The last thing I'd like to give a bit of commentary on is the Iron Dome missile defense system for America going forward. Personally, I think it is a significant deterrence that we are trying to develop, right? Israel has the Iron Dome, and we've seen it be effective in many instances against national threats, against missile threats. It's something that's kind of always in their pocket as you can't really touch us, right? And the idea that America, or the United States, I should say, would be investing in something as useful as this, personally, I see it as a good thing, right? We're not cutting costs by investing in an Iron Dome, but not every cost can be cut, if that makes sense, from my view, right? I mean, everybody is welcome to their own view, and I really implore you to please leave your own opinions in the comments down below. I'm really curious what you guys have to say. But regardless of what I was saying prior, the Iron Dome for America, I think, is good for defense infrastructure, and I think it will impact relations moving forward, right? we have to think about the global scale, right? I'm not sure how familiar many of you are, but the world is a system of anarchy, right? There's no one clear leader ruling over these nation states. The United States claims to have a hegemon among the global space, but that is refuted by China itself, especially with AI developments recently. I mean, did we see that Deep Shark AI? I'm just saying, right? Leadership will always be tested. I do believe an Iron Dome for America will kind of increase tensions with China and Russia a bit, but it's primarily a defense weapon, right? And defense is not always something that has to build tensions. I think it's more so just a security netting. The way I foresee it building tensions is that why is America bolstering its defense if not preparing for future conflicts, right? And I fear that is how many foreign leaders will see it as well. But then again, the Trump administration looks like it's going to be one of strength and force. Your opinion to that is your own on how that will be for the next 4 years. Personally, I think we may be trying to be a bit too forceful, but hey, I'm not the president. We'll see how it works out moving forward for him and for us, I guess. Overall, though, this really wraps up today's breakdown of America's political landscape. What do you think? You know, what are your thoughts? Please leave them down in the comments below. Do you think this is a step in the right direction for America? Do you think we're losing it all? Are you afraid for democracy? I did see Trump mention what I assume is a joke about running for a third term recently, talking about all the funds he's raised for the next campaign that he can't use, right? I sincerely hope that was a joke, right? Because even though personally I find myself to be a right-leaning moderate in the political landscape, I am all about democracy, and I am all about term limits. I do believe the president deserves a 2-term limit. Not to get too sidetracked, but just a little extra thought to put in there if you made it this far into the video. Again, thank you for watching. Please share your thoughts down below. Subscribe to Vinland Politics for more episodes just like this. I'm going to be trying to put out daily content. This is the first episode, so if you want the framing set up a little bit differently, or you have any suggestions to how to make this production a bit better, please share them with me as well. I'm just starting out. I want to do this journalism for you guys. I want to bring you facts, bring you commentary. That's pretty much all I have to offer you today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a white monster or a coffee to get your day started, and let's end it with a smile.